And I'll tell you guys since we're all friends. Every character I write has a piece of me in them. Hi, I'm Lizz Huerta. You're listening to the GrishaCast.
Welcome to GrishaCast, episode 103. In this episode, we will be speaking with a very special guest. This is your host, Eric.
And I'm Terry from Nashville, Tennessee. This is your podcast for all things Grishaverse and Grishaverse adjacent.
A world created by the very, very, very inspiring Lee Bardugo. Moi sabayani casters.
Hello.
Woo! This episode, we are honored to have a conversation with the incredible Lizz Huerta.
Yay!
On March 1st, Lizz's debut novel, The Lost Dreamer, will be available everywhere. And without further ado, let's bring in Lizz.
Hi, Liz!
Hi!
Hi.
Welcome to GrishaCast. How are you doing?
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be on this podcast and just to geek out with y'all.
Oh, we are so excited. We've been looking forward to this for months.
Yep, and you've come to the right place. You said geek out, so yep, it's perfect. So, of course, we've got some Grishaverse questions we need to start out with. So,
of course, I'm ready.
Yeah, just a couple icebreakers. So first off, how did you get introduced to the Grishaverse?
I think just word of mouth back in the day, many years ago, when Shadow and Bone came out originally. I picked it up like everyone else. I actually think I saw Lizz Bardugo at some event and she signed the book, which I lent to somebody and never got it back. So don't lend out your books, everybody, or do it very carefully. So that was years ago, and that's how I was introduced to that world. I reread them recently in preparation for this podcast, and yeah, here I am, a fantasy author too.
Okay, so if you are comfortable enough with the orders and suborders of the Grisha, what type of Grisha would you be?
I don't know if I know how to pronounce it correctly, but the body ones, the corporalkai, and I'd be a healer. I would absolutely want to fix people because that's just who I am. I'd want to heal the sick in my life and just the sick around, especially after 2 years of pandemic. You know, we shouldn't have 1 million people dead, or more. So I would want that superpower. You can breathe. Everybody can breathe. It's okay.
That's really sweet of you.
That is.
You're a very kind person because I'm the opposite.
Yeah, you're...
Yeah, I'd be the heart render, so...
But you guys would still be both corporalkai.
We both wear red.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And I would be a etherealkai, and I would be a squalor. So, and...
Ooh.
Yes. Yep. Gonna be all in charge of some wind, and blue's my favorite color, so I get to wear a blue kefta. I'd be so happy with that. That'd be amazing. So,
do you cosplay?
Funny question. And so we didn't. I never thought I would until we started this podcast, and then Chris had this wonderful idea that we would not only record a podcast, but we would do a video that would go on YouTube. Well, in an attempt to try to get more people to view us, we decided in October, the first year, that we would every single episode dress up as a different cosplay character. And ever since then, every single October, we do that. And we have...
I love that.
They've been some very interesting characters they're great. They're hilarious. And so we have done some cosplay. And
a lot of gender bending and it's
excellent.
Fun.
Yeah, we some of them are hilarious and the pictures are really funny. I'll have to show you those later because me dressed up as Insemination, which is just a random worm that is mentioned in one paragraph in the entire Grishaverse. We both geeked out on and turned Insemination into pretty much our mascot. So
Nice.
So talking about Ismrude, do you have a favorite character from the series?
I don't think I have a favorite character as much as I have like a deep appreciation for the ensemble and interconnectedness of the cast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like everybody has their own superpower, has their own gift, has their own grace. But I'm really just a community person. I love community and I love families. And I just love how this like very different group of people come together and just kind of roll deep and roll hard. And that to me is beautiful.
That's awesome.
Oh, she's the sweetest person ever.
I know. You're going to definitely have to get into Six of Crows and try that because you haven't read Six of Crows, correct?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So what you just said, you definitely need to try Six of Crows. That is it's incredible. It's Grishaverse. It's the same world, but it's I think you'll like it. It's very family oriented. So, a fun little game that we play on our podcast, it's called Fjordan, Marry, Kill. And it's based off of that old game you used to play when you were a kid, F, Marry, Kill.
Yes.
So,
I think it used to be Kiss, Marry, Kill.
I guess I grew up in, a stodgy little part of Nashville. I don't know, but we did F. However, anyway, so we've got 3 different characters that we've picked from the Grishaverse, and we wanted to play around with you and see if you would be interested in trying.
Excellent. I'm in.
Okay, so, and we'll do the same. So, Fjordan, Marry, Kill, Alina, Jenya, and the Darkling.
I mean, I guess I'd have to kill the Darkling just for the general good of the world. I would have to. Oh, this is real. I mean,
I know.
I think I would have to marry. Oh my goodness, how do I pronounce her name? The one with the G.
Jenya.
I would marry her just because I'm vain, and I would like to stay beautiful forever if I can. And yeah, Fjordan, Alina, I suppose that's where I would go.
Brilliant answer.
Yeah.
I'm all about that. I never thought about that part of Jenya. You know, I really like that because I would love for Jenya to take care of my skin and, just be able to tailor me. And that's a great answer.
Oh, that's where we agree.
I'm just going to go be vain for a little while, I think, why not? Why not?
Exactly.
Natural Botox forever, a natural lift.
Exactly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, that's where we would agree. I would marry Jenya, but the other 2 would be flip flopped because the Darkling would be fun.
So that's your Fjordan.
So, I'm always up for a good time. So we're gonna go. we're gonna Fjordan the Darkling just for fun. We're gonna marry Jenya for vanity purposes. And she's beautiful as well. And obviously, there's going to be some Fjordan in there, too, because you're married. And then I'm going to have to kill Alina. Sorry, she's boring.
Okay. Well, see, this is kind of easy for me because I've got, I would definitely have to Fjordan the Darkling. But I also want to marry the Dark. Yeah, because I would like to Fjordan the Darkling. And then I could marry Jenya because we can just be like besties and just she can go and find some lovely person to be with and can have that.
So are we all sister wives?
Yes,
exactly, of the Grishaverse. And then I guess that would leave me killing Alina. Wow.
Yeah, we rarely agree on that, so.
That is very weird.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had to do this one, so that is, that's hard. But we didn't throw my favorite character in there, Zoya, and then things would have been different. But anyways. So.
Well, thank you for playing along with us and getting through some Grishaverse icebreakers. But let's move on to the real reason why we're here.
Woohoo!
Tell us about The Lost Dreamer, your first novel coming out March 1st.
March 1st.
Yay!
The Lost Dreamer is my young adult Mesoamerican informed fantasy novel. The story of two young women who have the same gift where they can enter a different dimension when they dream. One is born to a lineage of dreamers in a sacred city of Alcanza, facing some patriarchal BS. The other character, her name is Indir. The other character, Saya, is born in the wild and has the same gift, but keeps it a secret. And one of them is the foretold lost dreamer, who will either save or destroy their world. And you don't really know who the lost dreamer is until the end and how they're connected. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited for the story to be in the world. I've been working on it for a very long time. So it's quite surreal right now.
I bet. That's incredible.
Well, we will tell everybody that we did get to read this, and it is the most beautiful book. It's very imaginative. It's a whole different world than we're used to. I would love to see a movie or a show on this, because to see the visuals on this would be absolutely beautiful. It's very colorful. Highly recommended by the GrishaCast. So everyone needs to read this.
And I agree. It is gorgeous. And I love that it is very unique, because I've never read it's not like any other YA fantasy I've read. And it's got a very unique magical system, and saying magical system doesn't even sound right, to be honest, because it's not but I didn't know how else to say it. So it's an incredible book. The visuals are beautiful. And by the way, listeners, we do know who the Lost Dreamer is, but you're going to have to read and find out. But it's incredible. It's a beautiful book. And I'm amazed by it. So have you always wanted to be a writer?
Always. I have wanted to be a writer since before I could write. My parents have cassette tapes. I would record stories in a Fisher-Price tape recorder before I could write. And I would pretend you needed to turn the page. And I'd be like, no, you turn the page, because that's what I thought you had to do. So I narrated books that I wrote before I could physically write.
That's incredible. You did your own audiobooks.
I did. And I had a lisp. So they're really funny to listen to, because I had a lisp and allergies. So I think the one my parents have, it's about a beautiful Pegasus unicorn.
Oh, I love it.
And in the middle of the narration, my baby sister comes in and bites me, and we start fighting.
Please tell me your parents still have that cassette tape.
They do. They don't know where it is, but they have it somewhere.
And for those of you younger listeners that don't know what a cassette tape is,
Google it.
Yeah. But
Google it.
Yep. Used to walk around with our Walkmans and cassette tapes. And so what authors or books helped inspire you to be the author that you are today? And
there's so many. I read a lot. I read a lot of Charles DeLint, who writes urban fantasy. I've been reading him since I was about 15, when I turned 15 or 16. Weirdly, I think when I've reread The Lost Dreamer, I see so many references to Clan of the Cave Bear and the rest of the Earth's Children books, those prehistoric romance, prehistorical fiction. Those books were really formative for me in terms of just really tiny details in world building. So I see a lot of Clan of the Cave Bear in The Lost Dreamer. When I read it, I can see it. I don't know if other people will see it, but I can see it.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible.
That's good to know. Put that on the list of books that need to be read now.
Yeah,
they're very, they were so, I will say, they're started to be published in the 70s, but there are non-binary characters, queer characters, polyamorous family units, matriarchal societies, rape is punishable by death. They're really incredible books that were being published, over 40 years ago, that some of the stuff that she was writing about, it took the world a long time to catch up.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's ahead of its time.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, Terry I love when like people ask about what she started reading. And what's your answer, Terry? What was?
Oh, it was Stephen King and Anne Rice when I was 9 years old. That was that was my introduction to novels. Yeah, I just went with the covers of the books.
I mean, Anne Rice was incredible. Yes. I read everything she wrote when I was a teen. I mean, that's the whole reason I went goth. I was like, I am an immortal vampire. I'm going to wear all black and dance like a tree.
Absolutely. Have you ever heard of Poppy Z. Bright and Lost Souls?
No.
I still haven't found anybody that has. It's an incredible vampire book that was. It reminds me a lot of Anne Rice, except it's it was my little goth book that I loved, and it actually had a gay vampire as the main character. He was like this teenager, so I related to it a lot. Anyway.
I can't imagine any vampire would be straight, honestly, after like after lifetimes of like, wouldn't you want variety?
Yeah. An Interview with the Vampire, when you really think about it, I think I never read the book, but the movie, I think it's kind of one of the first introductions, I think, like a little bit to like queer characters. Like, I mean, it was very like, back then when Interview with the Vampire came out.
It's definitely one of the big like mainstream novels, and every queer girl ever like that read Anne Rice. It was just one of those things of that time. You wanted Lestat to come into your bedroom and make you a vampire. I mean, it was just one of those like queer girl things in the 90s. Yeah.
We were obsessed.
Obsessed.
Yep. Those were the days before it became cool.
When you could still get beat up.
Yes, exactly. Like before the Twilight days.
Oh.
I never read
We
those.
don't talk about that.
Yeah.
So we went on a whole journey together, and we're going to journey back to Dreamland. Do you remember your dreams, and did that help kind of inspire the dreams in the novels?
Absolutely. I actually write down my dreams every single morning, and I have for years. And I go to the same world when I dream every night, and I have since I was a teenager. And there's a cove that my character Saya goes to a lot when she's in dreaming. And that's one of the places I go to over and over and over again. So I decided, I was like, I'm going to write a short story about a young woman who ends up in this cove at night when she dreams. And that's where the Lost Dreamer kind of started. There was there's so many other different ways it started. But that visual of Saya in the cove where I always go, that's where the book started. And I still go to that cove. I was there last week.
That's incredible.
I'm so jealous.
So you dream and you keep going back to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And has that happened your entire life? Or like
it's happened since I was about probably 15 or 16. And I could draw you a map. There's a Europe kind of land in my dream world. There are these parks I visit. I have this really incredible house there that has all these secret rooms. It's really interesting. So I just go back there and I can kind of gauge my mental and emotional health by what it looks like. If the cove is kind of crowded and dirty and the water's gross, I'm like, oh, Liz, you need to figure out what's going on in your life. And if the cove, the water's clear and it's beautiful and it's not crowded, then I'm like, oh, we're in a good place. But it's really interesting to go back over and over again. One of my sisters goes to the same place when she dreams as well.
That's incredible. Like, absolutely incredible, because I love dreams. I don't often remember them. I've got many different journals that I've bought to try to like have a dream journal, but I've never successfully been able to do it. The only thing that I can relate to with how you going to the cove is I know that when I was having a rough period and I was struggling in my life with some addiction issues, and I didn't realize this till later, I always was dreaming of running away from a tornado. like
Ooh.
for like years and years, and I'd like have this like, and it was different each time. But what's crazy is when I got sober, I haven't had a dream like that since. And it's like, so it's interesting how our dreams really do have a lot to do with our lives. And yeah, so that's neat. I love the fact that you have a place that you can return to. Terry, do you?
It's really cool.
I bet.
Yeah, I don't ever remember my dream. But I'm going to, because of your answer to that, I'm going to skip ahead and ask you, do you think that writing fantasy is much like being in the dream?
Oh, I don't know. I know that a big part of my creative process is meditation. I meditate before I write, which is a form of dreaming in a way, of kind of accessing a different part of your mind. So maybe it is, meditation can be like waking dreaming at times. But yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting question. I mean, writing fantasy, sometimes it just kind of like takes over, which dreams do too. So maybe I'd have to think deeper on that, but it's a great question.
Yeah, because I was going to say you were born to be a writer. If you're having this, imaginative dream that's playing out, it reminds me a lot of, sitting down to write. So you were born to be a writer.
I'm so grateful I'm a writer. I don't know how I'd process half the things in my life without a creative outlet.
We agree. We both are like artists, and it's so important. And like it's part of my health. If I am not like doing art or being able to like be creative at all, then like I shut down. And there have been periods in my life where I wasn't able to do that, and I look back on those, and those were some very dark times. And yeah. So, talking about dark, there's a myth that I'm just wondering what you think about it. Everybody says that if you die in your dream, that supposedly that happens in real life. Do you believe this? What do you think? It's just a crazy little question.
I think every time I'm close to dying in my dream, I wake up. I mean, we don't know, right? Because there's no way to tell, because if you died in your dream, you're dead and you can't tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
So I hope not. I've come close to death, I think, in my dreams. Or I've had those dreams where I have like the sleep paralysis where you can't move and that terrified feeling. But I've never died in my dreams because maybe I'd be dead in real life.
There's a part of your book when I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to ruin it, but I thought that was an amazing part in the very beginning when a character is visualizing seeing that happen, and it just it made me think like, wow, like your dreams just like not that I take them for granted. I just wish I could remember more of them, and I wish I had the ability like you to be able to like, oh my gosh, go back to the same place. That is incredible to me. It's beautiful.
It's a practice too. I read something years ago, and it says before you fall asleep, you tell yourself, our minds are amazing. You tell yourself, I'm going to wake up and remember my dreams. In the morning, I will remember my dreams. And my dream journal is literally in bed with me, just right there next to my pillow. And as soon as I wake up, I turn on my little bedside lamp and I write down even just the fragments. But it's just a practice. I'm like, I'm going to remember my dreams. I'm going to remember my dreams. So you could try that. Our minds are really great at picking up messages we tell ourselves.
Absolutely. I definitely will. I fall asleep with my Kindle every night. Every single night. And usually there's a little drool on it. So
Yay.
Okay, so this question is a great time to bring up the graphic, the poster, producer Mian.
Yay!
So we're going to get a good introduction of the characters and talk about the special gifts that each one has. If you could kind of go through, for those of you just on the podcast, we will try to have a link to this poster, but you could also go to our YouTube and watch this interview. But if you could kind of go through and introduce everyone and their special gifts.
At the top, we have Saya wearing her necklace of protection. Saya is a seer/dreamer, so she can enter another dimension. At the bottom of the poster, we have the other protagonist, Indir, and her eyes are closed, and she has the same gift, but with a lot of heavy secrets attached to it. Just over her shoulders are her sisters, Delu and Zeri. They're dreamers who have slightly different abilities. One dreams possibilities, one dreams weather patterns and crops and things like that. With the headdress, we have the evil, well, I don't want to say evil, but let's just say somebody who is who's acting from some very deep trauma. We have Alkan, who wants to be the next king of Alcanza. He doesn't have any gifts except for kind of being a jerk. Next to him, we have Inkop, who is a fire warrior. The fire warriors were people who were cast out of Alcanza generations ago, but they've come back. And he has the ability to manipulate fire. Let's see. Ooh, we have the Ilkan, who are my favorite characters. They are, in my head, I call them the Jaguariors. They are these women warriors who, when they go into battle, take on the characteristics of jaguar. So they grow claws, fangs, their skin becomes mottled. They also can communicate with animals.
Where is that?
See if I don't. They are the ones with the little headdresses and the claws on the necklaces.
Gotcha.
So, and then next to them wearing the red sash, we have Lal, who is of the Litesh, and they are sacred singers who can sing healing into human bodies as well as kind of work with water. They can manipulate water to kind of move their boats around the world and also have a beautiful relationship with the creatures of the sea. I'm trying to see who else I can. Oh, we have Ovis. We have Ovis, who is a romantic interest. And he has kind of a little secret lineage that I won't give away. But he is a warrior in the city of Alcanza. And he is... he's important to the book. He's a little love interest. And but my favorites, I don't think my favorites, they don't show up to the very end of the book, but I think one of my favorite characters isn't in here. Her name is Akal. And she's just so cool and laid back that I want to be her when I grow up.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah. Well, the poster is beautiful. The characters are beautiful. The colorful images around them, is that kind of what the sky and the dream, is that kind of indicative to the description?
It is. The dream world was so much fun to write. It was just like, just go off, Liz. Just go off and have fun and make it as wild and weird as you want it. Make the strangest creatures. And I had so much fun writing the dream sequences. And it's not really the dream. I think the dream is a different dimension that people enter, and they call it the dream. But those were just I'm like, I want to go there. I want to live there. I want to hang out with these weird critters.
They were beautiful to read. Mm-hmm. They were gorgeous to read, and I loved every bit of it. Real quickly, in the picture that we were just looking at, over the shoulder of Saya, is that like on like at, because Saya's at the top, correct? Is that what you said? On her right hand side, is that her? She's got like, is that her mom?
Oh, I believe that I have to look at the poster.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's I believe that's Salai. Yeah, her mom, who's kind of a jerk. Definitely have some bad mothering as well as good mothering in this book.
Strict. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that must be her sisters next to her, like her mom's sisters. Yeah.
Oh, no, maybe that was Safi. I don't know which the characters are exactly. They're always changing in my mind. I'm like, this one's Safi, this one's Salai. But the twins. I love them. Kupi and Ishara, they are just They are just, in my mind, I'm like, these two, if they were contemporary, would listen to so much heavy metal. They'd be the auntie who'd be like, we're going to take you to the Heart concert. Come on. They are just such cool. I have a heavy metal auntie, so I had that experience. But I feel like the twin aunts are, they're like the heavy metal aunties that you want to hang out with.
That's awesome. We actually have had some fun on our podcast by taking the like characters just from the Grishaverse and like putting them in like everyday jobs or trying to figure out what kind of music would they listen to and things like that. So that's awesome. That was a beautiful picture. I love that you already have a visual and for the fans to be able to look at because it's a gorgeous picture.
Yeah, Marlene Solorio is the artist, and I just absolutely love her work. So I'm very grateful that I've had great artists to work with so far.
Absolutely. And you can get that anybody can get that if they they just have to pre-order. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pre-order the book. I think you have until the first week of March, and you submit your receipt. There'll be a link in my Twitter bio, my little link tree, to send your proof of purchase to Macmillan, and they will send you this gorgeous poster.
Awesome. And we will make sure to also have that link in our social medias. And so there were so many different types of gifts that I want out of the ones you explained. Is there one that you definitely would like go more to? Like,
I mean, I feel like maybe I'm already a dreamer in some ways, because I have such an intimate world with my my own relationship to dreaming. So I would say, kind of inherently, I would describe myself as a dreamer. But I would want. That's so rough because I love the Jaguar women. I love the Ilkan. Like, they're just such badasses. And I'm like, I want claws and to talk to the animals. I mean, I talk to the animals all the time. I'm kind of like the weird neighborhood animal lady out here. I have crows who are my friends and are always just hanging out on my balcony and bringing me gifts. So I'd probably be Ilkan because they're pretty dope. And they have some they're raw, and kind of mysterious. And I could handle that. I only wear black and leopard print. That's my aesthetic. So I want my skin to have like that jaguar print.
that would be really cool. I loved in the story when that would happen. I just thought that was so incredible to like read about. So Terry, do you like? I definitely know that I would have to be, at least starting now, I might change my mind later. I would want to be a dreamer for sure. For like 100%. I would love to walk around the dream and just like, oh, that sounds so beautiful to me.
I think it's kind of funny because when we've asked what order you wanted to be a healer, but now you want to be Ilkan. So, and then I'm kind of the opposite. I wanted to be a heartrender, and I kind of want to be a singer. So we kind of switched.
You did.
We did. I mean, I should be Ilkan because I am like the cat lady. I bring like all the stray cats just like collect to me, and we have a whole like conversation thing going on. But
maybe it's universe specific, in the Grishaverse, that's who we are. And in this world of the dreamers and the waking world, it's just specific, it's like, well, this is who I am over here and this is who I am over there.
Oh my gosh, that's an amazing theory. Yeah. I love it. That has to be real.
I loved the singers. I loved the singers very much.
That's really cool. And I just love it. So, yeah.
Was there a specific character that you related to the most that kind of wrote in like your voice?
I think Indir and Saya, the two protagonists, are both really close to me in different aspects of myself. At different points in my life, just figuring out different, can you hear me? Figuring out your vulnerabilities and your strengths. I wrote this book over 9-10 years. And so when I read it, and I had to rewrite it completely during pandemic, I just saw so many aspects of myself, like trying to discover my own sense of identity and power in the world. And so I was just saying to somebody, I feel like Indir in the beginning of the book is very different from the Indir you have at the end of the book. And when I started The Lost Dreamer, I was probably like Indir at the beginning of the book. And now I'm like Indir at the end of the book. Like I've been through some things.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling a little bit more like rough-edged and ragged and also really strong. So probably Indir.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's so cool. So how important was it for you to give queer and Latin people a spotlight in your story?
Huge. I don't think there's anybody really straight in my world, and I wanted to build a specific, a world that had queer world building in it. And I wanted brown folks. I wanted queer folks. I wanted this beautiful, diverse. I mean, I think that heteronormativity is such a Western concept. It's such something that was forced upon us by colonialism. That was not real. It's still not real. It's just this very, it's been forced upon us, and Catholicism and all sorts of things. Not that I'm Catholic, and I wasn't, but it was important to me to have that representation. I would have had such a different experience as an adolescent if I had brown queer characters to identify with. So much pain that I went through trying to figure out my identity on my own. If I had people to look to who looked like me, my life would have been very different.
Yeah, well, and what's amazing is you're able to give that now. Like you're giving that gift to so many young people out there, and it's an amazing gift because GrishaCast, yes, we love the Grishaverse and we talk a lot about the Grishaverse and Lee Bardugo, but we also are a queer podcast, and we strongly support just representation of queer and everybody. It's so important, and it's amazing to now, like, because you never even read about queer characters, even in like fantasy. Fantasy was always just like, it just wasn't in there, but it's so amazing. Have you read Aidan Thomas's Cemetery Boys by chance?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. I mean, that book could not have existed when I was a teenager.
Nope.
And that visibility is so important. I mean, I imagine how many kids are seeing themselves in those characters, and it's not necessarily a struggle, narrative of, trans identity. It's just accepted and loved and seen, which is so huge.
Agreed. It was a huge moment for me. I remember when we actually got to interview Lee, that it was a subject that came up, and at that time it hadn't been published yet, but she said she had read the arc and she suggested I read it. Well, when I did, I had no clue what I was getting into, and like I couldn't put it down because like it I am not trans, but the way that book was written, it is so positive, and it helps. I know it can help so many people out there because it talked about the struggle, but it also talked about just normal feelings, and just like it was an incredible look that I feel like so many kids out there are going to get something out of it. And what's amazing is the story also was a really cool fantasy story and tied in, and just like it was beautiful. It was amazing. I've never read anything like that book. And
I think the first representation of queerness I read was like the autobiography of Lana Turner's daughter when I was like 11 years old.
Wow.
But if there were like fantasy books that had queerness in them, I would have had so many better options.
Yeah.
At that point in my life. And building this world, there's really no there's one romantic relationship one main romantic relationship that's centered in the narrative. And I didn't want to necessarily center romantic love. It's about community love. It's about sisterhood. It's about family love and discovering your own family. But I tried, there's a scene toward the beginning of the book where there's like the flirtation dances where people gather by desire and how it's always fluid. Even within the dance, you can change how you're dancing with what desire you're feeling at that moment. I just wanted that in the world. I'm like, there's fluidity in desire, in gender, from one moment to the next, it can change.
Absolutely. And I hope that you can answer this question because it won't give away too much, but there's a beautiful ceremony that you have created within this book. Do you feel comfortable sharing? Is that too much, or?
I mean, it's a little bit. I don't mind sharing it. There is in this book a queer insemination ceremony, and I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Mm-hmm. When I was working on this book, two of my best friends were in the process. I married them. I officiated their wedding, Leah and Allie, and they were in the process of having a child. And they were both really sad about how much of the birthing process was so heteronormative. Even the birthing classes they went to were like, well, the night that you made love to create your child. And they're like, no, we created our child in a lab with a syringe. And, it's kind of heartbreaking that that isn't visible in the world. And I was like, I got you. And it takes place, that narrative is specific to the Saya narrative, but it's mentioned in the India narrative. So to write that the ceremony of the nightbird exists across this great swath of land is that it's normalized, that conception is a sacred act no matter what bodies are involved. The choice to conceive and create a family. There's a woman who's acting as a surrogate in that scene, and she's nesting. And I wanted to give a sacred name to children who are born from non-traditional conception, the children of Nightbird, that this is a beautiful sacred act, no matter how it comes about. And I got to hang out with the little Nightbird baby today. It was actually, I took a copy of the book and she's 3 years old now or 2.5. And I was like, yeah, you inspired, like, she has no idea what I'm saying, but like, you inspired this, like your existence in this world inspired this ceremony, and it means so much to me.
That's one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in my life.
I know. It's gorgeous. So listeners out there, this book is incredible. I know we're talking about it a lot, but I mean, it really has those moments that that ceremony is gorgeous, and and so creative. It's just
and it involves the community. It's not just a ceremony between two people. It involves the community, which is such a part of the queer identity, is like having these beautiful communities. And it's a beautiful ceremony with ritual and offerings and music. And it takes place on the sacred part of the moon. And I'm like, I wanted a sacred name. I wanted us to have a sacred name for a sacred act of creation.
It's gorgeous. And
thank you.
Yeah, my husband and I actually just a year ago officially adopted our son that we had been.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And it was we had fostered him at first, and actually what's funny is the timeline is pretty much when I started GrishaCast is the exact same time that he came in as a foster child. And anyways, we have he's now our son, and we adopted him during COVID, like during quarantine time. So it was really interesting. We didn't get to go to a courthouse. We did it all through Zoom, which was interesting. But when I was reading about the ceremony, it just it reminds me so much of that. And just when you bring up community, and that's a beautiful part of creating a family. And I think so much about Caden and how our family is part of our community, and that's a huge part of it. And it's so it's a beautiful thing that you added in there. And I just Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you. And
thank you. I mean, I hope the world receives it well. I hope I want it. I hope you don't know how it's going to land until it's out in the world. And so I hope that some child out there who's a teenager or whatever reading it is like, gets to be like, hey, dad and dad or mom and mom or whatever, like we have a name. Like I was conceived by Nightbird, whether that was, just like the syringe or whatever, to say you have a sacred name because you came from a sacred act, a sacred choice.
It's beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
So, and hey, but just by you saying and thinking you're not sure how it's going to land, it will be fine and perfect. We got your back, so don't worry. I mean, it's going to be...
GrishaCast is going to come for you.
Yeah, we ain't scared. Mm-hmm.
I'm no stranger to cutting people, so...
No, I will get my heels out and we will just stomp all over.
It's a thing of beauty, so it will be received well.
It will. There's no way. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Thank you. I just say my ancestors handle my vengeance. That's always my tagline. I'm like, I don't cut people. I don't fight people. I have some really angry ancestors. They can handle it.
There you go.
We've kind of touched on this question a little bit, but how much of Lizz Huerta is embedded within these pages? And we kind of already discussed it, but asking you now, how much of you is in this book?
I think so much of me in this book. I think that for me, this book was this tremendous healing process to write. It took a long time to write. And then over the last, through pandemic, when I had to rewrite the entire thing, I had to go kind of into this like emotional underworld and do a lot of personal excavation and really examine a lot of my own vulnerabilities and fears. And that all went into the book. And it's really vulnerable and it's really scary. And I'm also really proud of how brave I was to do this. And I think there's aspects of me in every character. Sometimes I feel like I'm Nahi, the Ilkan, just like I'm a badass in the jungle. Very much, one of the characters I feel very connected to is Yishu, who I wrote. I have diagnosed ADHD, and so is she. She just says the most inappropriate things at the most inappropriate moments. She has no filter, and I'm like, that's me. Sometimes.
Same here. Yeah. That's why my lovely best friend is. She can calm me. Her and my husband are the only two people in this world who really know how. They handle me and deal with it, but they also are the two people that can ground me. And they just, they know when to help me stop because I never know when to stop.
Being neurospicy is a gift.
I like that.
It's got a lot of gifts to it. That's great. Finally.
Yeah, neurospicy is good. I like that. I have an autistic son, so that I'll tag that on him too.
I got it from TikTok. Somebody's like, I'm neurospicy. And I'm like, me too. I'm neurospicy.
Claim that.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, there is a part in the novel where a choice is kind of made. So if you had to choose which peoples from your novel to live with, I think I know the answer to this. Which would you choose?
See, that's funny because now I want to go to the islands with the Litesh. I want to be out. I kind of wrote them to be more kind of like a Pacifica culture, like they're Samoan or Tongan or Hawaiian. And I kind of want to go kick it with them in their beautiful islands and, swim with their creatures and lay in the sun and just kind of be fabulous and sing and heal. I like the Ilkan a lot. I could live with them, but I'm also really sensitive to insect bites. I'm like, there's a lot of jungle insects, and I'm really allergic.
You brought it up in the book, and I love that because when it came up to that part about just insects and going through the jungle, I was like, oh my God, yes, I love nature, but bugs, no, not so much. I'm not good with all that.
I'm really allergic. So I just swell up every time I get any sort of mosquito bite or any kind of bite. I get real lumpy real fast. And we've already discussed, I'm vain. I don't want to be lumpy.
Wow. What was I'm sorry, I just can't remember. The people that fly on the big birds.
The Iran. They just has the name Air in it. AIR, the Iran. Yeah, they kind of have like this. I don't really show where they're from in this book, but you'll see it more in the next book.
They intrigue me, so that's why I'm excited to hear more about it from the next book.
Yeah, they're a little secretive. I like them.
Hey, yeah, and you gotta have a sequel. So, if you could live in any other fantasy world besides your own, where would you live? I love this question.
That's really hard because, like, as a brown woman, where am I going to be safe? In so much of the fantasy that exists, I'm like, am I going to be safe? I'm not going to be safe in the Shire, I don't think. You know, I would say I'll probably go back to my favorite, like, urban fantasy writer, Charles DeLint. He has the city of Newford that he writes about over and over again. And I'd probably live there just because he has a really queer, funky cast of characters that I could see myself getting into lots of trouble with.
Sounds fun. I want to ask you that question.
See, I'm not a big... Okay. I co-host a fantasy podcast, but I'm not a huge fantasy reader. So I don't know a lot of the worlds. Because, like, I don't want to go... I mean, Outlander is my favorite, like, series ever, but I don't want to live in the past. I don't want to do that. I enjoy my hot water. I had a whole discussion...
Plumbing is important.
Had a whole, like, discussion with my youngest son about that, because he enjoys hot water, too. And we were like, we cannot live without hot water. And all the fantasy worlds seem very dangerous. So, like, I don't really want... I mean, like, maybe Kurt... in the Six of Crows, because it's dirty, dingy. It's very, since you haven't read it, it's very Peaky Blinders-ish.
Amsterdam.
London in the industrial period, kind of. And that's very intriguing to me. I like dirty, dingy. So I guess that would be my answer.
Yeah. The Grishaverse, like, I mean, the Kirch is neat. I do encourage you to watch the show. That's a really... I
started watching more. I watched a couple of episodes last night before I switched to Cosmos.
Oh, well, there you go. Because that ties in the story that you read and also the Six of Crows story. So, yeah. Well, I'm going to answer as well because I have to. But you already know my answer.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And half of it... Well, So growing up, I was obsessed with the fairy books that I used to the art fairy books that I used to read by Brian Froud. And anyways, Leigh Bardugo's great friend, Holly Black, wrote The Cruel Prince, and Elfheim I would live there without a doubt. And yes, I would love to live in a fairyland because I also totally believe that it's real.
Good Fairies, Bad Fairies, the book that flipped over.
That's my favorite one.
I know, I have it signed. I met Brian Froud at the Labyrinth of Cherith Masquerade Ball. Have you heard of this?
No, but keep talking.
Every year, there's a masquerade ball based on the movie Labyrinth, called Labyrinth of Cherith, and it's a cosplay masquerade ball. And your face, you're killing me. And so I met Brian Froud and Toby, his son, who played Toby in the movie Labyrinth, at the Masquerade Ball in 1998 or 1999. And I brought my fairy book because I knew he would be there. And he signed it and drew a fairy for me.
Oh my God, I love that you know what I'm talking about. And
it's the best book. It's the best book.
Isn't it? Like, and I'm going to geek out for a second here. My favorite thing to do in the world, and I've done this since when I was younger, because that book was a lot bigger when I was younger because I was small. But my favorite thing to do would be sit on my bed and I'd put the book up on my chest, and it was so big at that time that, like, I mean, I couldn't really see over it. And I'd go from page to page and reading through it. If you actually start from the beginning, you do like have a progression where you enter fairyland. And like that was my place. Like, because the pictures are so gorgeous and
body diversity. It's not just skinny little wafy fairies. They're matronly fairies with these big pendulous breasts and giant thighs that are just gorgeous. I mean, the body diversity of the fairies is actually really wonderful in that book.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And I love that you love because everyone loves fairies, the first one, but that Good Fairies, Bad Fairies is my absolute favorite and always has been. So... Oh, that's awesome. I can't believe you met Brian Froud.
I see you.
Oh my God. Yes. So if you haven't, have you read A Cruel Prince by chance?
I haven't.
Okay. I just think when you have some time, I encourage you to pick it up just because if you love like Brian Froud, then this will be amazing to you. Because it was for me. I was actually very nervous to read it because... someone saying, oh, it's about a fairyland. I'm like, oh, well, it's not. No one can write about the fairyland that I love, because mine's dangerous and all that. Like, they're going to make it all I don't want it Tinkerbell. And that's what I was all nervous about. And it's incredible. So
Gritty fairies, I'm in.
Yeah. And now I'm on this whole other, I can find so many books on fairylands that are so cool and dark. And anyways, okay. Well, thank you for letting me geek out with you about that. So, random question, and I'm asking this for my son because he had to ask Lee this question when I asked him, what is your favorite ice cream?
Oh, I love sorbet. So I'm real... besides being neurospicy, I just like spicy in general. So there's this ice cream you could get in Mexico and here in San Diego, because we're a border town, called a diablito, which means a little devil. And it's usually a lime sorbet covered in a chile sauce with chile powder on it, and then some tamarind pieces thrown in. So I like my ice cream sour and spicy, and it is so delicious.
Just let you know, my husband producer just came up and put a thumbs up in the window because, and I when you were describing it, I was like, that's my husband because we love spicy food. I like spicy food. We love Thai food. However, my husband, when we go, I'll get level 3 because, on the menu it says 1 through 5. My husband will get 10 or 15 and isn't joking. And
I travel with hot sauce packets.
Oh, that's awesome. I wish you could, Chris, we got to get your microphone working so other people don't think we're just talking randomly. Anyways. Well, awesome.
I love tamarind, but I don't know if I want my ice cream to be...
You have to try it.
Anything
so
but...
good.
I mean, I would try it. I'll try just about everything once. But yeah, I like my sweet, but I do love tamarind. Do love tamarind very much.
I heard it was a long time ago. I don't know if this is true, but someone said that somewhere in Europe they would put black pepper on vanilla ice cream because it enhanced the flavor. And this is probably the first time I've ever even spoken this out loud. But I've always wondered, I was like, is that true? Because I can understand spices do help that.
Oh.
I know
I've had black pepper on strawberry sorbet, which is really good, with a little bit of black pepper and balsamic vinegar on a strawberry sorbet. Is actually really delicious.
So it brings out maybe the sweetness.
Yeah, it's a really interesting kind of counterbalance.
Yeah.
I like really strong flavors, so
Clearly.
I will go for the strangest tasting, the stinkier the cheese, the more into it I was. When I was in Europe, I was like, give me the cheese that will knock me over. But maybe I'll try the black pepper on the vanilla. I have vanilla ice cream and black pepper. Why not? I'll experiment. I'll DM you, let you know.
Please do. Yeah. And the reason I thought it might be true is because Thai food is like that. I feel like if you order Thai food and don't at least get a little bit of spice level, then you're missing out on so many flavors. Yeah. And people don't realize that. I mean, just saying.
Speaking of food, what's a food item that you could eat every single day. Maybe on the islands where we're singing.
Ooh, let's all wait.
Pickles. Pickles. I am a pickle person. I could eat pickles all day, every day. They are, and anything are when I was writing The Lost Dreamer, salt and vinegar chips were my jam. Just people would just drop them off on my doorstep because they knew how much I loved them. But salt and vinegar chips and pickles, those are my two favorite flavors.
Right there with you. The dill pickle chips are very similar to the salt and vinegar chips, but with that dill flavor. Yes. I will eat salsa with the dill pickle chips. I am a pickle person. So I'm right there with you.
What kind of pickle? Like, I mean...
Every kind. I mean, I love dill pickles, like a good cucumber spear. I love pickled beets. I love pickled carrots. Back when I lived in Mexico in my early 20s, I used to eat these things called cueritos, which are pickled pig skin. Not something I eat anymore, but I would eat that back in the day. But I just love anything pickled. I've had pickled radishes. I mean, you put something in vinegar and let it ferment for a while. Bring it to mama.
I remember when I went to New York for the first time, and I went with, of course, my graduating class at my synagogue. So we went, and it was the first time have you ever tried a half sour pickle? Have you ever heard of it? You can actually get them at the grocery store. I know that I can get them here at Publix, and it's Bamonte is the brand, and it's a kosher pickle. It's called half sour, and it's got this very strong cucumber flavor still with it, but it's also got this pickle. It's very popular in kosher delis. But anyways, look into that. I think you might be intrigued. I love half sour pickles. They don't taste like dill pickles, but they're great. I think you might like them. So
I'll check it out. I mean, fermentation. I'm all about it.
Mm-hmm. So, what was your favorite activity during quarantine? Because this is something we can ask now.
Oh, I was such a weirdo during quarantine. And I was really hyper vigilant too about going out and about because there was so little we knew about the virus, but I wanted to be active. So I ordered a mini trampoline and I would just bounce. And it actually became part of my writing process where I would just, bounce. And then I found these hilarious YouTube videos and they were so funny. There was this Australian guy who goes, "You need to do affirmations on the trampoline." And so I'd follow along and be like, "I am strong. I am great. I am beautiful," while jumping on a trampoline. And it was so funny and ridiculous that I think just jumping on a trampoline was my favorite pandemic activity.
That was
a very neurospicy thing to do.
Very neurospicy.
Was it in your backyard or in your house?
It was in my living room. I live in an apartment.
Okay, so wow. I always wanted one of those huge trampolines. I never had
a little one. I
loved those. I thought they were fun. That's neat. I think everybody went a little crazy during quarantine. Yeah.
I befriended all my neighborhood animals, which is one of my sisters said, "You're not Snow White, you're Snow Brown," because I have squirrels that come and hang out with me. I have the crow. The crow gets excited when I get home. Like today I drove up and the crow just swooped in, super excited. I have a mockingbird that comes and sings with me when I play ukulele on the balcony.
What?
Yeah, I just became like the neighborhood animal lady because I just started feeding them nuts and getting them to trust me. So I became the weirdo animal lady of my neighborhood.
Have you by chance seen My Octopus Teacher on Netflix?
So good.
When you just mentioned, yeah, okay. Yeah, same here. I was bawling my eyes out. Yeah, that was crazy movie. But when you started mentioning about feeding like the animals and gaining their trust, that's when I was like, My Octopus Teacher. Oh my God.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
I know. If you haven't watched that out there, listeners, it's on Netflix. It's a documentary that...
Oh yeah, I think we talked about it for a good 45 minutes on one episode.
I probably, I made everybody in my life watch it. And if you didn't cry at the end, I hung up on you. Because I was a big old ball of tears. That was so emotional.
I mean, and it's like really, you can't eat octopus anymore, like after watching.
Oh, I know. Nope. Mm-mm.
You're
Sorry.
just like, no, sorry. No, none of that ceviche. No thanks.
No more calamari. So.
All right. So one question I was looking forward to, and I had to add in here. We read that Tori Amos inspired young Liz. We are pure Tori stans here. So if you want to geek out about your favorite album, songs, concerts, and will we ever get to read any of those angsty teen poems?
I was thinking of doing a TikTok series of reading my angsty teen poems while dressed the way I dressed I guess the way I dress now, all black. So I'm actually thinking of reading some of those they're so terrible, they make me laugh. I'm thinking of reading them on TikTok to kind of honor all versions of myself as a writer. And Tori forever. I love Boys for Pele, from the Choir Girl Hotel, Little Earthquakes. The first time I saw Tori Amos was on some weird pay-per-view music video channel that played like in the early 90s. I think I was 11 or 12 years old, and I saw Silent all these years. And I was like, who is this weirdo in the box rolling around with this pain in her voice and this beauty? I fell in love. And I was a hardcore Tori fan all through high school. Then I became a thespian because we all hung out together, the Tori fans, and I went to concerts. She's going on tour. The day she announced her tour, I had like 12 text messages from people going, guess what? I felt that there was a part of her that let me be brave in ways that I didn't know how to be on my own, and vulnerable and raw. So Tori, I love her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is my personal goddess. I had a few times where I had the ability to actually meet her and talk to her, and I refused to do it because you never want to meet those people and give them like a personality. So she will forever just be like that out of reach, like goddess to me. Yeah.
She's beautiful. And yeah, we, what's funny is we went to the same high school, but we were in different, I was a freshman when she was a senior. So we knew each other and we liked each other, but we didn't really like hang out in high school. It wasn't until later in life that we became like besties and our whole worlds collided. But we did always see each other at Tori Amos concerts. And I just remember my first, I got introduced by Tori by my brother, and it was like I was really young, and whoever he was going to see Tori with, canceled, and he decided to invite me, and I had no clue who I was. I don't know. I definitely wasn't even, I was in middle school, and it was for the Boys for Pele tour.
Oh,
and
so good.
He played, on the way there, he played Caught a Light Sneeze for me, and I was like, okay, that's cool, and I remember I went, he bought me the beautiful book of that came for that tour, and
I have my books too. I have my Tori tour books.
Yeah. Oh my God, I will never get rid of those. I love them. They're beautiful, but yeah, she's amazing. I think Tori brings out a beautiful part of it's just this creative soul, and just the way she sings, it's so important, and everybody's got their favorite albums and reasons and things. It's just her music today still is beautiful. I know she's going on tour, but did she announce the North American tour yet? Or last time I checked, it was. I
think so, because I think she's going to be in San Diego in June. So a bunch of people are like, "Are you going to be at the show?" And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't been to a show in so long. I don't know if I can go back to that life yet.
Well,
you can.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, real quickly, I just wanted to ask, and so we do have a lot of writers listen, or listeners that are trying to write, and there's so many different ways and formats. Do you have any advice that you can give to upcoming or new writers? Maybe even to any specifically to queer or of color authors trying to figure out how to break the mold? Or I know that's a lot of questions. So
no, I think it's a good question. I think it's, I always come back to trust yourself. You know way more than you think you do, and nobody can write the way you do. So just continue writing. Find your voice. Find the story that won't leave you alone, and stick to that. And find your community. Don't do this networking crap where it's just very like, I'm going to meet this person and this person. It's triangulation. Find your community. Find the people who are writers. They don't have to be in your genre, but the ones that you vibe with, that you resonate with, who will both challenge you and uplift you, because I would not be here without my community at all. And you could do that. You can find it online. You can find it through workshops. There's so many great workshops and scholarships available, and financial aid. Find your community and find your voice, and read widely and stick to it. I think a lot of it is a numbers game. There's so many writers I know who are incredibly talented, and for so many reasons, or just they've had enough rejections where they just quit. And I'm like, you have to just keep going. It requires a certain amount of just stubbornness. You just have to be stubborn long enough.
Wow. That's some really good advice. Because I know there's a lot of people out there that try, and they do get bummed out over just trying to they just keep getting rejected, and that's got to be hard, having that happen over and over again. Do you have a certain format that you do for like writing? Like, do you just start writing from the very beginning and go all the way to the end, or do you have like, I don't know, you think of a chapter that you really want to write that day and you do that? Do you have a style? Or
I write towards a moment, I write, like, I know what the kind of, I want the feeling to be, and I kind of write towards that. Like, I knew what the ending of The Lost Dreamer had to be, but I didn't necessarily know how I was going to get there.
Awesome.
So, trusting the process. I do write, I have my notes app on my phone is wild. It's just filled with tons of notes for ideas, for parts of the book or the next book or other books I haven't started yet. And then I just kind of like sit with it and see what shows up and go from there. I think every writer's process is unique. There's people who are really disciplined and do outlines and are just really good. I'm not that way. I'm just like, bleh. I call myself the instant pot. Like, I do really well in high pressure, low timeline situations.
That's awesome. I love that. I think that's incredible. So, what is upcoming? Do you have any projects planned in the future?
The sequel to The Lost Dreamer is very deep in process. And then I have a couple of other books that I have this really fun kind of like nuns and pirates book that's in the same world of The Lost Dreamer, but just like probably a few thousand years in the future, that I've been working on. And that's a lot of fun. I kind of cheat on my book in progress with that book. I think it's always important to have a side piece creatively to refresh the energy. And so I have that. And then I have this really kind of poignant YA novel that's pretty heartbreaking, that's contemporary, that I would love to bring into the world one day. And it's really heartbreaking and beautiful because I love that stuff. And so does everybody else. We love to have our hearts broken by beauty.
Absolutely. All I ask is please make a map. I love maps, and I would love to see a map in the sequel. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, my recommendation. Well,
we look forward to the next projects very much. And
thank you.
And thank you so very much for speaking with us.
Yeah, and thank you so much for answering all our questions. I know it went a little long, but we had such a great time.
I mean, you know what? I'm really excited to talk to you too. I mean, I love listening to the episodes, and you're so much fun. And it's, as we say in California, just real good energy. So I'm down for real good energy.
That's awesome.
Oh, thanks. Well, it was a lot of fun talking to you. We really appreciated it.
It was. And listeners out there, please make sure to mark your calendars. March 1st, go get The Lost Dreamer or go and pre-order it. You can get that beautiful, beautiful poster. We definitely recommend it. It's a wonderful novel. So thank you so much, Liz. It was incredible to have this conversation with you and a truly honor.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy. Hopefully I'll be back for the next book.
Absolutely.
We will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
That was such a good conversation. We enjoyed that so much. Please be sure to check out her book on March 1st. We highly, highly recommend it. Also, be sure to check the description box of both YouTube and the podcast for a way to win that poster and to view the poster.
Absolutely. And next week, we will be going back to Lives of Saints, discussing Sankt Damian, Sankt Maria, Sankt Emmerins, and Sankt Vladimir, which is pages 41 through 55. Long live the Grishaverse!
Like, we're at the end of the hour, so my voice is a little husky. A+.
No mourners.
No funerals.
This has been GrishaCast. Connect with us on the web at GrishaCast.com. Send an email to info@GrishaCast.com.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at GrishaCast.
Thank you so much to our guests, Lizz Huerta, and our staff, Chris, Alex, Sid, Michelle, and Amber and Chloe.